The morning sun rose over New Haven Colony, like it had for the past 20 years since humans first settled this frontier world. Danny Barrett stood at the front of his classroom watching 8 children file through the door with their lunch bags and bright smiles. "Good morning, Mr. Barrett," Katie Sullivan said as she bounced to her seat. The 8-year-old girl had blonde pigtails and wore a dress her mother had sewn from earth fabric. "Good morning, Katie," Danny replied with the warm smile that made every child in the colony feel safe. "Did you finish your reading about elephants?" Katie nodded eagerly while her older brother Jake rolled his eyes. At 11 years old, Jake thought he was too grown up for animal stories. But Danny had caught him reading ahead in the textbook more than once. The other 6 children settled into their seats. Lisa Martin and her twin brother Paul, both 9 years old. 10-year-old Amy Wells. 7-year-old Chris Hughes. And the youngest students, 6-year-old twins Benny and Sophie Clark. The one-room schoolhouse served all the colony children, whose parents worked the farms that fed New Haven's population of 43. So as Danny began the day's lessons, with math problems written on the old-style chalkboard. He could have used a holographic display, but he preferred the simple tools. There was something honest about chalk dust and wooden desks that reminded him why he had left his old life behind. Now, if a farmer plants 12 rows of corn, Danny explained, and each row has 15 stalks, how many stalks total does he have? Hands shot up. Danny called on Amy, who proudly announced 180. The other children clapped as Danny marked a gold star next to her name on the progress chart. Through the window, Danny could see the edge of the forest that surrounded their settlement. New Haven sat in a cleared valley, with farms spreading out in neat rectangles around the central buildings. The schoolhouse, the administrative center, the medical clinic, and 20 family homes made up the entire colony. It was peaceful, quiet, exactly what Danny had wanted when he left the Colonial Marines 5 years ago. "Mr. Barrett, can you tell us another Earth story?" Katie asked during their mid-morning break. "Please?" Danny smiled and gathered the children around. "Have I told you about wolves yet?" The children shook their heads, eyes wide with interest. "Wolves are predators from Earth," Danny began, using simple words the younger ones could understand. "They hunt in packs, working together to bring down animals much bigger than themselves. But here's the interesting part. Thousands of years ago, humans and wolves made a deal. The wolves would help humans hunt, and humans would share food and warmth. Over time, those wolves became dogs, man's best friend." "Did you have a dog, Mr. Barrett?" Benny asked. Danny's smile dimmed slightly. "I did. Once. A good dog named Scout. He saved my life more than—" He stopped himself. "He was a very good friend." Jake studied his teacher with curious eyes. Sometimes, when Mr. Barrett thought no one was watching, his face changed. The gentle teacher disappeared for just a moment, replaced by someone harder, someone who had seen things that left shadows in his eyes. The comm unit on Danny's desk beeped. Greg Phillips's voice crackled through. "Danny, you there?" Danny walked to the desk and pressed the button. "I'm here, Greg. What do you need?" "Just checking in," the colony administrator said. "We've had some weird sensor readings near the perimeter. Probably just wildlife. But I wanted to make sure you keep the kids inside today. No recess in the forest." "Understood," Danny replied, his voice suddenly more alert. "Anything else I should know?" "Comm Relay's been acting funny too," Greg admitted. "Can't reach the next settlement over. Could be solar interference. I'll let you know if anything develops." The connection ended. Danny stood very still for a moment, his hand resting on the comm unit. His instincts, honed by years of combat, whispered warnings. Sensor anomalies and communication failures rarely meant nothing. "Is everything okay, Mr. Barrett?" Katie asked, Worry creasing her small face, Danny turned and gave her his warmest smile. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just some technical issues. Now, who wants to learn about the Amazon rainforest?" The children cheered, and Danny pushed his concerns aside. He spent the afternoon teaching them about Earth's incredible biodiversity. About rivers so big they seemed like oceans. About trees so tall they touched the clouds. The children absorbed every word, imagining a world they had never seen. At 3 o'clock, Danny dismissed class. Usually, the children walked home in small groups. But today, he insisted they wait for their parents. Lisa and Paul's father came first, then Amy's mother, then Chris's parents. The Clark twins left with their older sister. That left Katie and Jake waiting in the classroom. Their parents worked the furthest farm, a 30-minute drive from the settlement. They should have been here by now. Danny stepped outside, scanning the horizon. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the empty streets. Too empty, usually. At this hour, colonists moved between buildings, tending to their work. Today, the settlement felt abandoned. "Mr. Barrett," Jake called from the doorway. "Look." Danny followed the boy's pointing finger in the sky. Descending through the clouds was a ship, not human design. The hull was dark and sleek, shaped like a predatory bird, with weapons pods visible along its wings. Every nerve in Danny's body screamed danger. "Inside now," he commanded, his voice sharp enough to make both children jump. They had never heard their teacher sound like that. "Lesman shelter, move." "But our parents," Katie started. "Go," Danny ordered. "I'll find them. Hide in the shelter, and don't come out until I come for you. Promise me." Tears filled Katie's eyes. But Jake grabbed his sister's hand and pulled her toward the stairs leading to the school's emergency bunker. Every frontier building had one, designed for tornado warnings or other natural disasters. Danny watched them disappear below before turning back to the window. The alien ship landed in the town square, its engines scorching the grass. A hatch opened, and beings emerged. They were tall, perhaps 7 feet, with reptilian features and scales that shimmered green and black. They moved with the confidence of apex predators, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Danny counted 8 of them, spreading out through the settlement. He recognized them from his military briefings. Krenti, a hunter species that traveled the galaxy seeking sport. They weren't interested in conquest or resources. They wanted trophies, and they had just found a defenseless colony. Danny's hands clenched into fists. For 5 years, he had buried the soldier he used to be. For 5 years, he had been nothing but a gentle teacher who loved children and books and peace. That man was about to die, because somewhere in this colony, Katie and Jake were hiding in a basement, and their parents might already be captured. Somewhere in these streets, 43 innocent people were about to become prey. Danny walked to the storage closet at the back of the classroom. Hidden behind boxes of old textbooks was a locked cabinet that no one knew existed. He entered the code he had sworn never to use again. Inside were the tools of his former life: combat armor, weapons, tactical gear, all maintained, all ready. Because some habits died harder than others, Danny began to armor up, his movements automatic and efficient. As he did, he caught his reflection in a small mirror. The gentle teacher stared back at him, but the eyes had changed. They were the eyes of a hunter now. The eyes of something far more dangerous than the Krenti could possibly imagine. New Haven was about to learn what Earth really meant by the phrase, dangerous prey. Zrathker stepped off the landing ramp and breathed in the scent of his new hunting ground. This was his 47th hunt across 12 worlds, and he had never lost a trophy. The Krenti hunter stood 7 feet tall with scales that had earned him the title Shadowblade among his people. Spread out, he commanded his 7 companions in their clicking, hissing language. Secure the settlement. I want the prey gathered in the central square within 10 minutes. His lieutenant, Thraxus, moved with predatory grace toward the largest building. According to their scans, this colony held only 43 humans, a small hunting party. Perfect for an afternoon sport. The Krenti database listed humans as Class 3 prey species. Low threat, moderate intelligence, physically weak. Earth was rated as a low-gravity world with minimal predators. The species had only recently achieved space travel and had no significant military victories on record. In other words, perfect targets. Zrathkur watched colonists emerge from their homes with weapons raised. Primitive projectile guns. Energy pistols designed for wildlife. The humans actually thought they could fight how. Amusing Greg Phillips stood in front of the administrative building with a hunting rifle pointed at the nearest Krenti. His hands shook, but his voice held steady. This is a peaceful colony. We're protected under the Frontier Settlement Act. You have no right. Thraxus moved faster than human eyes could follow. One moment Greg held his weapon. The next he was on the ground, his rifle crushed into scrap metal. The Krenti hadn't even drawn a weapon. Rights? Zrathkur laughed, the sound like rocks grinding together. We are Krenti. We take what we want. Hunt what we choose. Your laws mean nothing in the wild spaces between stars. More colonists gathered, herded by Krenti hunters with weapons that crackled with barely restrained energy. Men and women of all ages. Farmers and technicians and medical staff. All terrified as they realized their world had just become a hunting preserve. Please, a woman named Carol Martin begged, tears streaming down her face. Please don't hurt the children. Children? Zrathkur's eyes gleamed. Where are your young? The colonists exchanged glances, but no one spoke. Zrathkur admired that. Actually, prey species often protected their offspring with surprising courage. It made breaking them so much more satisfying. Search every building, Zrathkur ordered. Find the young ones. They will motivate the adults to run properly. His hunters moved through the settlement, smashing doors and scanning structures. They found homes and workshops, storage facilities and gardens. But no children. The humans had hidden them well. Thraxus returned from the schoolhouse, shaking his head. Empty, he reported, but recently occupied. There's a basement shelter, sealed from the inside. Zrathkur approached the small building with interest. Through the windows, he could see a classroom with desks and a chalkboard covered in mathematical equations. How primitive, how quaint. Break the seal, he commanded. Wait. A voice called from across the square. Danny Barrett walked out from behind the administrative building. He wore simple clothes, a teacher's casual attire, and carried no visible weapons. His hands were raised in a gesture of peace. I'm the teacher, Danny said, his voice calm and measured. The children are under my protection. I'll make you a deal. Zrathkur studied the human male with interest. Average height for the species. Lean build, brown hair graying at the temples. Nothing impressive about his appearance, but there was something in his eyes that didn't match his gentle demeanor. Humans don't negotiate with Krenti, Zrathkur replied. Humans run, and we hunt. That is the natural order. Danny stepped closer, ignoring the energy weapons trained on him. I know what you are. Krenti hunters. Looking for sport. You want prey that runs, that fights. That makes the hunt interesting. True, Zrathkur admitted, though I doubt you soft colony farmers will provide much challenge. Then hunt me first, Danny said simply. Give me a head start. Let me reach the forest. If you catch me, you can have the rest of the colony. If I survive until nightfall, you leave everyone alone. The Krenti hunters clicked and hissed with amusement. Thraxus laughed outright. One human thinks he can evade 8 Krenti hunters? Your species' arrogance amazes me. But Zrathkur held up a claw for silence. There was something about this human that intrigued him. The way he stood, the way he moved. suggested more than a simple schoolteacher. And Zrathker had survived 47 hunts by trusting his instincts. You were military, Zrathker observed. I can smell old violence on you. Danny's expression never changed. I was a lot of things. Now I'm a teacher who wants his students to live. Do we have a deal? Zrathker considered, by Krenthi tradition, a prey animal could offer itself to protect the herd. It was considered honorable, and denying such an offer brought shame. Besides, hunting a trained human soldier, even a former one, would be more entertaining than chasing terrified farmers. Agreed. Zrathker declared, You have 10 minutes to reach the forest. We will pursue with 4 hunters. If you survive until sunset, we depart and leave your colony untouched. If we catch you before then, your people become our trophies. Choose your starting direction. Danny pointed toward the eastern forest, where the trees grew thick and shadows ran deep. There, then run. Little human, Zrathker said, showing all his teeth. Run fast. Run far. It won't save you. Danny turned to Greg Phillips, who still knelt on the ground with his crushed rifle beside him. Take care of them. Greg, no matter what happens. Then Danny ran. He moved fast for a human, sprinting across the open ground toward the tree line. The colonists watched in horror and grief as their teacher disappeared into the forest. Likely to his death, Zrathker counted slowly, enjoying the anticipation. Around him, his hunters checked their weapons and tracking equipment. 4 of them would pursue: Thraxis, Krelix, Viharn, and Sethrax, all experienced killers who had taken dozens of trophies. Time, Zrathker announced. Begin the hunt. The 4 hunters moved as one, flowing across the ground like liquid shadow. They reached the forest in seconds. Scanners already locked on the human's heat signature. He's running east, Thraxis reported through the comm. Moving fast but leaving an obvious trail. This will be over in minutes. Zrathker settled down to wait, keeping the remaining colonists covered with weapons. He could hear their quiet crying, their whispered prayers. Soon they would learn that hope was just another form of suffering. Through his helmet display, Zrathker watched his hunter's progress. The human had covered impressive distance, but was slowing now. His inferior endurance failing, the Krenthi were closing in, forming a net that would drive the prey toward Thraxis for the kill. I have him, Viharn reported, following his trail to a creek bed. He's trying to hide his scent in the water. Predictable. Minutes passed. Zrathker frowned as the pursuit continued longer than expected. The human was proving more elusive than anticipated. Using terrain to his advantage, then Viharn's comm went silent. Viharn. Report. Zrathker commanded nothing. Thraxis, what's Viharn's status? Lost contact, Thraxis replied, his voice uncertain. His signal just disappeared from my scanner. Could be equipment malfunction. The scream that came through the comm was brief and wet and very final. Viharn is down, Krelix shouted. I found his body. His throat was cut and his weapon is missing. Zrathker stood up slowly. That wasn't possible. Humans were prey species. They ran from hunters. They didn't ambush them. They certainly didn't kill Krenthi warriors in hand-to-hand combat. Regroup, Zrathker ordered. All hunters converge on Krelix's position. This human is more dangerous than... Krelix's signal vanished. Then Sethrax started screaming in the settlement square. The colonists heard the sounds coming from the forest, not human screams. Something else dying in the shadows, and they began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they had underestimated their quiet teacher in the forest. Danny moved like smoke between the trees, a weapon in each hand. His gentle smile replaced by something cold and merciless. The beast had awakened, and it was hungry. Thraxis crouched beside Krelix's body and tried to understand what he was seeing. The Krenthi warrior had been dragged 15 feet from where he fell, his neck broken with precision, But what disturbed Thraxus most was the efficiency of the kill. No wasted movement. No unnecessary damage. Just cold, calculated death. This doesn't match the database profile, Sethrax whispered, his weapon sweeping the surrounding forest. Humans don't hunt like this. Clearly they do. Thraxus snapped. He activated his scanner, searching for the human's heat signature. Nothing. The prey had disappeared completely. As if the forest had swallowed him, a branch cracked behind them. Both Krenthi spun. Energy weapons blazing. Trees exploded into splinters. Bushes disintegrated. When the firing stopped, they found nothing but scorched earth and smoke. Clever, Thraxus admitted grudgingly. He threw something to make us waste ammunition. Then Danny dropped from the canopy above. He landed on Sethrax's shoulders, driving a stolen Krenthi blade through the gap in the hunter's armor. The alien's scream died as Danny twisted the weapon and rolled away, already moving before Thraxus could fire. Thraxus roared and charged, forgetting his training in his rage. He was faster than any human, stronger, armed with superior technology. None of it mattered. Danny used the forest like a weapon. He ducked behind trees that absorbed Thraxus's energy blasts, circled through brush too thick for the larger alien to follow. Every time Thraxus thought he had a shot, the human disappeared. Stand and fight, Thraxus demanded in broken human language. Face me like a warrior. Danny's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. I'm not a warrior anymore. I'm something worse. Thraxus spun, scanning desperately. His heat tracker showed the human signature 5 meters to his left. He fired, shredding vegetation. The trap sprung. What Thraxus had seen on his scanner was a heat source Danny had left behind, probably stolen from Krenthi equipment. The real attack came from behind. A salvaged energy pistol firing point, blank into the back of Thraxus's knee joint. The Krenthi lieutenant crashed to the ground, his leg useless. Before he could recover, Danny was on him, moving with a speed that seemed impossible for his species. Wait, Thraxus gasped. You said you were a teacher. I am, Danny replied, his voice cold. But before that, I was a colonial marine, jungle warfare specialist, trained on Earth's Amazon, fought on 7 death worlds. I came here to forget that life. He pressed the stolen blade against Thraxus' throat. You made me remember. You can't win, Thraxus insisted. Zrathker still has 3 hunters at the colony. He'll kill everyone when you don't return. Not if I kill him first, Danny said simply. Then Thraxus knew nothing at all back at the settlement. Zrathker paced with growing unease all 4 hunters, silent. Either their communications had failed completely, or they were all dead. Neither option was acceptable. Prepare to move out, he commanded his remaining 3 warriors. We're going into the forest. What about the colonists? One hunter asked. Leave them, Zrathker decided. If they run, we hunt them later. Right now, I want to know what happened to my team. Greg Phillips heard this exchange from where he sat with the other colonists. He caught Carol Martin's eye and nodded slightly. If the Krenthi left them unguarded, even for a moment, they could reach the emergency shelters. But before the aliens could move, Danny's voice crackled over a captured cum unit that Zrathker wore on his belt. Zrathker, we need to talk. The Krenthi leader yanked the cum unit free, staring at it in disbelief. Human? How do you have Krenthi communication equipment? Took it off Thraxus's body, Danny replied casually, along with his weapons, his armor, and his pride. He died poorly. By the way, begged at the end, Zrathker's claws extended in rage. You lie. Check your scanners, Danny suggested. All 4 hunters. Offline. I can describe how each one died if you want. Viharm went first. Throat cut while he bent down to examine fake tracks. Kralix next. Ambushed from above. Sethrax third. Blade through the spine. And Thraxus last. After I made him chase me in circles until his rage made him stupid, the other Krenthi checked their sensors. Their expressions confirming the truth. 4 hunters. 4 dead signals. Impossible. Zrathko breathed. You're a teacher. Our database says humans are class 3 prey. Danny's laugh was harsh and bitter. Your database is wrong. Let me educate you. Since that's what I do, Earth isn't a low-gravity world. It's almost twice the gravity of your homeworld. Earth isn't free of predators. Everything on Earth evolved to kill or be killed for 3 billion years. And humans aren't weak. We're the apex predator of a death world so dangerous that we had to invent weapons just to survive our own planet. Zrathker processed this information, his mind racing. If true, it meant the Krenthi had made a catastrophic error. They had classified humans based on their peaceful colonies and diplomatic nature, never considering what they had been before they reached the stars. You were soldiers, Zrathker said slowly. All of you? Some of us, Danny corrected. And we came out here to get away from war. To build something peaceful. To teach our children a better way. His voice dropped to something dangerous. Then you showed up. What do you want? Zrathker asked, hating the weakness he heard in his own voice. I want you to make a choice. Danny replied, take your remaining hunters and leave now. Return to your people and tell them the truth about humans. Update your precious database, or stay. And I'll kill all of you the same way I killed the others. One of Zrathker's warriors growled. We are 4 against 1. Even if you killed our hunters in the forest. You can't defeat us all in open ground. Can I? Danny asked. Check your ship's systems. Zrathker pulled up his command tablet. Accessing the shuttle's status, his blood ran cold. Someone had attached improvised explosives to the fuel lines. The engine manifolds and the weapon systems, if detonated, the ship would be destroyed. When did you? Zrathker started. While you were watching your hunters die on your scanners, Danny explained. I circled around through the forest, placed the charges, and got back out before you noticed. Your ship is dead. Zrathker, you have no escape, and night is falling. The sun was indeed setting, painting the sky orange and red. Shadows grew long across the settlement. In the dark, Danny continued. Your heat scanners won't help. I know this forest. I spent 5 years walking these trails with children, teaching them about plants and animals and the beauty of nature. His voice hardened. Now I'm going to use everything I know to hunt you down. You're bluffing, Zrathker insisted. You're one human. I'm a death world predator, Danny interrupted. And you threatened my students. That was your mistake. Not coming here. Not trying to hunt us, but threatening children. Because humans have one rule. Zrathker, one rule that overrides everything else. You don't hurt our young. Katie's voice suddenly came through a second cum channel. Mr. Barrett? I'm scared. Danny's tone changed instantly, becoming gentle. I know. Sweetheart, stay in the shelter with Jake. I promise you'll be safe. Are you coming back? Katie asked, her voice small and frightened. Always, Danny assured her. I'll always come back for you. The transmission ended. When Danny spoke again to Zrathker, the gentleness was gone. That little girl thinks I'm the kindest person in the world. I want to keep being that person for her. But to do that, I need you gone. Zrathker looked at his remaining warriors. They were afraid. He could see it in their eyes, smell it in their scent. They had come here expecting easy prey and found instead a nightmare. 1 hour, Danny said. You have 1 hour to decide. Leave peacefully, or I start hunting. And Zrathker? In the jungle, I never lost a single engagement. Not one. The cum went silent. Zrathker stood in the fading light, surrounded by terrified colonists and frightened warriors, and realized he had made the worst mistake of his hunting career. He had brought prey animals to bay and discovered they had teeth. 30 minutes passed in tense silence. Zrathker, had gathered his 3 remaining warriors in a defensive position. Near their crippled ship, the colonists watched from a distance, hardly daring to breathe. "We should leave," Krethis, the youngest hunter, whispered. "This hunt has gone wrong. We've lost too many." "Krenti, don't retreat," Zrathker snapped. But his hearts weren't in the words. Everything about this situation violated his understanding of how hunts worked. Prey ran. Predators chased. That was the natural order. Yet somehow this human had reversed the roles. Maldrix, the weapons specialist, studied his scanner nervously. "I can't get a lock on a human. He's masking his heat signature somehow. Could be anywhere within 300 meters or closer." Danny's voice came from directly behind them. All 4 Krenti spun, weapons raised, but Danny wasn't there. The voice had come from another captured cum unit. "Hidden in the grass. Clever human," Zrathker admitted, trying to keep his voice steady. "Using our own technology against us, but tricks won't save you." "Don't need tricks," Danny replied. "Just patience, and I have all might." Krethis fired at Shadows, his nerves breaking. "Show yourself." "Coward. I'm not the one hiding behind hostages," Danny pointed out. The colonists had been herded into a tight group, surrounded by Krenti weapons. "You're using unarmed farmers as shields, and you call me a coward?" Zrathker's tail lashed in frustration. The human was right. This wasn't hunting, it was cowering. But what choice did he have? Without the ship, they were stranded, and the human clearly knew how to use that advantage. "Your hour is almost up," Danny announced. "Time to choose, Zrathker. Peace or death." Before Zrathker could respond, Maldrix made a decision. The weapons specialist grabbed Katie's mother, Ellen Sullivan, and dragged her forward. "Enough games. Human, show yourself or I kill this one." "Don't," Danny warned, his voice dropping to something cold and final. "Don't do that." "Why?" Maldrix taunted, pressing an energy blade against Ellen's throat. "What will you do? You're just one soft teacher against 4 Krenti warriors. You got lucky in the forest. But here in the open, you're nothing." The shot came from the darkness. Maldrix staggered, a smoking hole through his shoulder where his armor had been penetrated. The stolen Krenti weapon clattered from his grip as he collapsed. "That was your warning," Danny called out. "Next one won't miss the vital organs." Zrathker pulled Ellen away from the wounded Maldrix, pushing her toward the other colonists. "How did you get that angle?" "We're surrounded by open ground. I've been in position for 20 minutes, Danny explained, waiting to see what you'd do, hoping you'd make the right choice. There was genuine sadness in his voice. "Guess not. Another shot?" This time, taking Krethis in the leg. The young hunter went down screaming. "Stop!" Zrathker shouted. "Stop this! Why should I?" Danny asked. "You came to hunt us, to kill us for sport, to take our children as trophies. Why should I show you mercy?" "Because you're better than this," Zrathker said desperately. "You said you were a teacher now, that you wanted peace. Killing us makes you no different than us." Silence fell. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Danny stepped out of the shadows. He emerged from behind the medical building, rifle in hand, wearing a patchwork of stolen Krenti armor over his teaching clothes. His face was streaked with dirt and blood, his eyes hard. But when he spoke, his voice was tired. "You're right," Danny admitted. "I don't want to be a killer anymore. I came here to escape that life, to be someone who builds instead of destroys." He gestured at the colonists. "These people are my family now. Katie and Jake and all the others. They're my responsibility." He walked closer, weapons still raised but not aimed. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to gather your wounded, fix your ship enough to fly, and leave. You're going to return to your people and tell them the truth. Humans are not prey. We're not weak. We're not easy targets. We're a death world species that chose peace. but we can choose violence just as easily. And if we refuse? Zrathker asked. Then I kill you all. Danny said simply, I don't want to. It'll give me nightmares. Wake me up screaming. Make me hate myself. But I'll do it anyway, because protecting these people matters more than protecting my conscience. Zrathker studied the human carefully. He saw exhaustion in Danny's eyes. Grief even, but also absolute determination. This wasn't a bluff. The human would follow through. You said you were a jungle warfare specialist, Zrathker recalled. What was your rank? Captain, Danny replied. Commanded a platoon on 3 Death World campaigns. Survived situations where 90% of my unit died. Got medals and commendations and nightmares. He laughed bitterly. And then I quit. Came out here to teach children their numbers and letters. To never touch a weapon again. Yet here you are, Zrathker observed. Here I am, Danny agreed. Because you gave me no choice. Behind them. Katie's voice called out, Mr. Barrett? Both Danny and Zrathker turned. Katie and Jake had emerged from the schoolhouse basement. Apparently unable to stay hidden any longer, the little girl ran toward her teacher, tears streaming down her face. Katie. No, Danny started, but Zrathker moved faster, his claws wrapped around the child, lifting her off the ground. Energy blade pressed against her small throat. Time stopped. Danny's weapon came up, aimed directly at Zrathker's head. The Krenthi leader held Katie in front of him like a shield. Knowing the human couldn't risk the shot, now we negotiate for real, Zrathker said, but he made a critical mistake. He looked into Danny's eyes and saw not fear or hesitation. He saw calculation. The human was measuring angles, assessing risks, preparing to take a shot that might kill them both. Danny would sacrifice everything, even Katie's safety. If it meant stopping the Krenthi, that kind of ruthless dedication terrified Zrathker more than anything else this day. Wait, the Krenthi leader said quickly. Wait, I'm lowering the blade. He did exactly that. Setting Katie gently on the ground, the child ran to Danny, who caught her with one arm while keeping his weapon trained on Zrathker. Smart choice. Danny said quietly. Zrathker realized the truth then. This human would have taken the shot, would have killed them both if necessary. Because humans didn't just protect their young. They avenged them, and a dead child would have meant no mercy, no negotiation. No escape. We'll leave, Zrathker declared. We'll repair the ship and depart, and I'll update the database personally. Good, Danny replied. You have until sunrise after that. I start shooting again, as the Krenthi worked frantically to repair their vessel, using whatever materials they could salvage. Danny sat with Katie and Jake. The little girl clung to him, still crying. I was so scared, Katie whispered. I know, sweetheart, Danny said gently, his voice once again that of a kind teacher. But you were very brave. Will they come back? Jake asked. The boy was trying to be strong, but his voice shook. No, Danny assured him. They're going to tell everyone in the galaxy to leave us alone. Greg Phillips approached carefully. Danny, what you did today. Don't, Danny interrupted. Please don't. I did what I had to do, nothing more. You saved us all, Carol Martin said. Tears in her eyes, Danny just held Katie tighter and watched the Krenthi work. Tomorrow he would go back to being a teacher, but tonight he was still a soldier, and the galaxy would learn to fear that combination. Dawn broke over New Haven with colors that seemed brighter than before, as if the world itself was celebrating survival. Danny Barrett stood at the edge of the settlement, watching the Krenthi ship prepare for departure. Behind him, the colonists gathered in quiet groups, processing what had happened. Zrathker approached slowly, his movements careful and non-threatening. The once proud hunter looked diminished somehow, like he had aged years in a single night. Your ship is functional? Danny asked without looking at him. Barely, Zrathker admitted. We lost Maldrix during the night. His wounds were worse than we thought. He paused. That makes 5 dead warriors. 5 hunters lost to a single prey animal. I'm not prey, Danny corrected quietly. None of us are. That's the lesson you need to take home. Zrathker clicked his agreement. I understand now. We made assumptions based on incomplete data. Humans present themselves as peaceful. So we believed you were weak. We saw your small colonies and gentle ways. Never asking why a species would choose peace. Because we know what war costs. Danny explained. We fought each other for thousands of years, killed millions in conflicts over resources. Beliefs, territory. We got very, very good at violence. He finally turned to face the Krenti. Then we decided to be better. To build instead of destroy. To teach instead of conquer. But the capacity for violence remains, Zrathker observed. Always. Danny confirmed. We just choose not to use it, unless forced. The Krenti leader nodded slowly. I will share this truth with my people. The combat recordings from my hunter's final moments. The Daon human capabilities, everything. It will take time to update all the databases across the galaxy. But I will make it my life's mission. Why? Danny asked. Why do this for us? Zrathker gestured at the settlement, at the children who were emerging from their shelters, at the families reuniting with tears and embraces. Because you showed mercy, you could have killed us all. Ensured no word of this reached our people. Instead, you let me live to carry your message. His voice held something like respect. That takes a kind of strength my people don't possess. Katie appeared at Danny's side, slipping her small hand into his. Mr. Barrett, are the bad aliens leaving? Yes, sweetheart, Danny assured her. They're going home. Good, Katie said firmly. Then she looked up at Zrathker with the fearless honesty of childhood. You mean, you scared my mommy? Zrathker knelt down to Katie's level, making himself smaller. You are correct. Young one, I was cruel and arrogant. I am sorry. Katie considered this, then nodded. Okay. Mr. Barrett says everyone deserves a second chance. Your teacher is wise, Zrathker replied. He stood and addressed Danny one final time. What will you tell other humans about this encounter? Danny thought for a moment. The truth. That we were attacked by hunters who didn't understand what they were hunting. That we defended ourselves. That you learned and left peacefully. He paused. And that humanity won't be looking for revenge. You speak for your species? Zrathker asked, surprised. No, Danny admitted. But I know my people will be angry. We'll demand better protection for frontier colonies. We'll probably militarize our borders. But we won't come looking for your homeworld. We don't believe in punishing an entire species for the actions of a few. Zrathker's respect deepened. Then humans are not just strong, they are honorable. We try. Danny said simply. The Krenti ship lifted off an hour later, its damaged engines screaming as it clawed its way into the sky. The colonists watched it disappear beyond the clouds. Hardly believing they had survived, Greg Phillips approached Danny as the crowd began to disperse. The colonial fleet will be here in 3 days. I managed to get the cum relay working again. They're sending warships and investigators. Good, Danny replied. We'll need better defenses. Danny, about what happened. Greg hesitated. People are scared of you now. They saw what you can do. What you really are. Danny had known this was coming. I understand. If you want me to leave. No. Katie's voice rang out clearly. She stood surrounded by the other children. Jake, Lisa, Paul, Amy, Chris, Benny, and Sophie. Mr. Barrett stays. Other voices joined hers. Parents and farmers. Technicians and medical staff. One by one. The colonists spoke up. He saved our lives. Protected our children. He's our teacher. Carol Martin stepped forward. Danny, we're not afraid of you. We're grateful, yes. You're dangerous, But that danger is what kept us alive. She smiled through tears. You're still the gentle man who teaches our children. You're just also the soldier who protects them. Ellen Sullivan approached with her husband Tom. Katie and Jake told us everything. How you made them hide. How you went out alone. Tom extended his hand. Thank you for bringing our kids home. Danny shook the offered hand, feeling something tight in his chest loosen. I couldn't let anything happen to them. Any of them. Greg cleared his throat. Well then, I guess you're staying, though. I am recommending to the Colonial Administration that we get a proper defense force stationed here. Good idea, Danny agreed. And maybe update the threat assessment for frontier worlds. Already done. Greg assured him. I've sent a full report. Every human colony is being warned about potential hostile contact. The peaceful expansion era might be over. Danny looked at the children gathered around him. Their faces full of trust and affection. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Peace is precious. But it needs protection. The days that followed brought changes to New Haven. Colonial warships arrived, establishing a permanent defense station in orbit. Marines set up a base near the settlement. Their presence a reminder that humanity was no longer content to be scattered and vulnerable. But in the schoolhouse, life returned to normal. Danny taught his lessons, explained mathematics and science, told stories about Earth's wonders. The children laughed and learned, gradually forgetting the terror of that terrible day. 3 months later, a transmission reached New Haven from deep space. It was addressed to Danny Barrett, marked as personal correspondence from the Krenti Hunting Council. Danny played it alone in his quarters. Zrathker's image appeared on the screen. Teacher Danny Barrett, I send this message to inform you that the Krenti database has been updated. Humans are now classified as Class 1 apex predators, with a strong recommendation against any hostile contact. He paused. The footage from my hunter's final moments has been shared throughout the hunting communities. You have become something of a legend. The teacher who killed 5 Krenti warriors to protect his students. Zrathker's expression shifted to something that might have been a smile. I have also shared the moment when the young one, Katie, told me everyone deserves a second chance. That too has spread across the stars. Humans are now known as both deadly and merciful, a rare and respected combination. The transmission ended with coordinates, a gift. Zrathker explained in the attached note, the location of a Krenti medical cache that could benefit New Haven's limited clinic. Danny sat in silence, processing this. His actions had changed how an entire species viewed humanity. One day of violence had rewritten databases across the galaxy. But had it been worth it? Katie's laughter floated through his window. She was playing with Jake and the other children, their voices full of joy and innocence. Yes, Danny decided it had been worth it. That evening, he stood before his class one final time before the weekend break. Today, we're going to talk about choices. Danny began. Every living thing makes choices. Animals choose where to hunt, where to build homes, how to protect their families. What about humans, Mr. Barrett? Amy asked. What choices do we make? Danny smiled. Humans choose who we want to be. We can be kind or cruel, gentle or violent, peaceful or warlike. He looked at each child in turn. The important thing is understanding that we have that choice and choosing wisely. Which do you choose? Jake asked quietly. Danny considered the question carefully. I'd choose to be your teacher, to show you the wonders of the universe, to help you learn and grow. He paused. But I also choose to protect you. Always? Katie raised her hand. So you choose to be both? Yes, Danny confirmed. Both gentle and strong. Both teacher and guardian. Because sometimes the best way to keep peace is to be ready for war. The children absorbed this wisdom, their young minds grappling with complex truths. That night, as New Haven's 2 moons rose over the settlement, Danny Barrett sat at his desk reading papers. Through the window, he could see the defensive perimeter, the marine patrols, the orbital defense station's lights twinkling like new stars. Humanity had changed. The galaxy had noticed them, really noticed them, and now understood what they were capable of. But in this small classroom, a teacher still taught children about kindness and wonder, and if monsters came calling again, they would find that same teacher transformed into something far more dangerous, because humanity's greatest strength wasn't their violence or their technology, it was their ability to be both lamb and lion, both builder and destroyer, both the gentle hand that nurtures and the savage beast that protects. The galaxy would remember. New Haven would remember the day the hunters arrived and learned that human teachers bite. Danny set down his pen and smiled. Tomorrow he would teach Katie and Jake of the migration patterns of monarch butterflies. But tonight, he cleaned and maintained the weapons hidden in his locked cabinet.